Mario Rubio, and I'm running for council because I figure I didn't see anybody running in this district that's going to make a difference to the citizens in that district. You know, it seems to be all one-sided, and I'm just concerned that the district is getting further and further behind, and we're not going to move ahead. And you know, as I said, I do believe that we need to have people on the council that have had some life experiences. You know, I'm a veteran. I served in the Army. Came back, I've raised a family, I've lived here since 1976, and I think the next 4 or 5 years are critical for us as a city to move forward and advance. And unless we do that, if we lose that window of opportunity, we're not going to reach our full potential. So,
right, well, I'm going to deviate a little from our normal questions. Obviously, you have a politically famous brother at the moment.
yes.
Do you have any aspirations beyond serving on the city council?
No, look, I'm 61 years old. You know, I don't want to be mayor, I don't want to be governor. And if, so be it, if they just want me to serve one term, I'll serve one term. My issue is really to get in there, make something that helps the city grow, have a better quality of life in the city and move forward. You know, I'm retired from Blue Cross after 32 years. I run a small healthcare consulting company. Most of my clients are out of the city. So I don't really have that aspiration to say, you know, I want to be a senator, or I want to be governor, or I want to be mayor. I'm too old for that.
Okay. Now, back to our questions.
Yes.
What do you consider to be the basic core functions of local government?
Public safety, I don't know if you want to call it waste disposal, those you know, garbage that has to be picked up, those kind of things. And in part education. I think part of the issue that we have is to make sure that we have a good educational system to help grow our city. You know, government's not going to create jobs unless it's government jobs. They're not going to help stimulate the economy in order to do those things. They can create an environment for it, but, you know. So I think those are the core functions to me is public safety, the waste collection, and to a certain extent education.
Okay. Now, have you identified any specific savings you believe that we can find in our upcoming budgets? And we're looking at things like, in addition to public safety, which is a big one, the Jacksonville Journey, the JEDC, Cultural Council, Children's Commission, special events, stuff like that.
Yeah, well, let me tell you what I found in the 32 years in a corporate environment. You have departments that allocate cost to the operational area. So if I run a department that uses IT a lot, I get allocated a lot of money from IT. Okay, so you will have a cost associated with that. Those have become sacred cows. They don't, when I present, if I was in the operational area, I present my budget and I'd say, okay, my budget is $100, but you know what? 30 of those dollars is allocated to me from IT, human resources, all those support functions that are there. And those can never be touched. So the only thing I have to cut is the 70% that I have. So they scream and yell and do that. I think those allocation departments, what's there, needs to be looked at to streamline it and create a more efficient government, if you will, a less size of government. You know, people keep saying, well, they can reorganize. You can't reorganize it. You have to re-engineer it. What you have to do is you have to go back to these departments and ask simple questions. What do you do? Why do you do it? And how do you do it? And streamline some of that function so that it becomes more efficient, less costly, you know, and more effective to the citizens. So.
Okay. All right.
What do you believe is the solution to the city employee pension problem, and what steps will you take as a council member to work toward that solution?
I can tell you that the pension has to be reformed. It's not sustainable the way it is. It's, you know, and I know you guys know I've been endorsed by fire and police, and that's the same dialogue I had with them from day one. I went to see them before I even decided to run, and I said to them, you need to understand that it has to be reformed. Now, how do you reform it? There's different options. You can take and you can say, you know, we're going to keep the current employees in a defined contribution or defined benefit, if you will, and new employees come in a defined contribution. There's an offshoot to that, and that is that you can offer current employees a change and say to them, you can choose. You can stay in the old program or the new program. What I found, because ours was changed like that, where I worked, what you find is that the employee that's only been there 3 or 4 or 5 years opts out to take the new one because they'd rather be in control of that 401k type situation and manage it themselves, and if they leave, they can take it with them and those kind of things. the older employees, the ones that have been there 20 years and are gonna retire in a few years, decide to stay with the old pension plan because they figure they have a lot vested in it. So I think that's what needs to happen with some of the pension. I also think the years have to be raised somehow. You need, I understand they have it at 50 years. I suspect that maybe police, fire, those kind of people, they can go up to 55. After you get to a certain age, you can't run as fast as you did before. You can't do the things that you could before. Trust me, I know. And so what ends up happening is you could put them in danger and create even more of a liability for you in the long run. So I think the age will have to be raised, I think, to 5 years or so. And I think you're going to have to change the pension to whether from a defined benefit to some defined contribution for new employees, and then see how that works out in the long run. But you can't continue to give 8% guaranteed, because you're going to kill the cash cow. That's what I told them. You're going to kill the golden goose that's here, and you're going to end up with nothing. And the city's going to be bankrupt, and you're not going to have a penny.
Okay, Victor.
Are there any fees that have been put in place by the current government that you would attempt to remove or reduce, and how would you recover any revenue shortfall resulting from such action?
Why don't you just say, what about the garbage fee and the stormwater fee? Because that's basically the new fees that are there. I don't, fees is just another form of tax. You can call it a fee, you can call it a this, you can call it a that. It's just another form of tax. The repeal might be difficult at the council because you won't get enough support for it. I kind of figured that out already. But there's nothing that says you just can't keep pushing. I would repeal it. And the way I would make the shortfall is making government more efficient. Try to look at ways that you can save the money. Now, you may not get there fully in 1 year because you're paying for the sins of the past, the things that have happened for a long period of time, and you're trying to cram it all into a small period of time, but you have to lay out a vision and a plan for that. And that's what I'm looking for, quite frankly, in the next mayor, and I'm not endorsing any of them, but I'm looking to see what kind of vision do you have for the future, because the council's going to have to push back and say, you need to have this vision. And if council members aren't willing to do that, then, let's go back, call us Cowford like we were, so many years ago, and then let's go from there.
Don't think we disagree with you on that. Okay, Rod.
Okay. What's your general view on the granting of sole source contracts for goods and services needed by the city?
Contracts should all be bid. There's no, like I said, I'm going back to my corporate experience. We bid all our contracts. And, we've become litigation averse. We think people were going to sue us, and because they're going to sue us, we're going to have this problem and that problem. You can't get the best price and the best quality of anything if you don't get it bid, and you don't know what's out there unless you put out a request for proposal to have people bid on a contract. And then you go from there. Now, they didn't do that with the waste management thing, which I thought was a terrible mistake. We've basically given them our soul, for a long period of time. And that's not right for the city in itself, but it sure as heck isn't right for the citizens.
There's some other things that you just can't do that in all cases. What would you consider a guideline for the threshold that there may be some things you need to be able to pick up the phone and order?
Well, pick up the phone and order. You're talking about supplies or something like that. What I found is that sometimes government, when you order a writing pad, it costs you $5.50.
Right.
But if you went straight to Staples, you got it at Staples, it's 95 cents, and they'll deliver free. So some of those things you might be able to go out and say which one of these companies has the best price on these products, and how do I then go out and get those products in here without having to pay all the overhead costs? Because quite frankly, most organizations like this, and I consider the city a corporation, if you will, they buy in bulk, and they store it somewhere. Well, that costs something to store that. Plus the people to handle it, the purchase stuff you got to send to them, bring it back, they charge it to your cost center or whatever it may be. So some of those things I would look at. Supplies may be one. IT could be an example of where nobody buys computers anymore. I don't know if the city does. They haven't been able to tell me that. But you can lease them a lot cheaper with no liability at the end, and after 3 years they just change them out for you and give you a new lease one. And if anything happens, you just call them and boom, there it is. So those kind of contracts I can see. But the big ones, you can't do that because you got to bid those.
Okay, Conrad.
You're up, Conrad.
Yep.
What will you do to encourage transparency and public access to government public participation in the legislative
But
process.
I think in my basic philosophy, and maybe this will answer it, my opinion and all this stuff doesn't matter. What matters is the opinion of the people that you represent. So if I want to do this, and the majority of the people want to do that, I got to do that. That's who put you in office. And so, you know, transparency-wise, you have to let them know where you are. You have to get that input from the people. You can't just sit back and sit there on an ivory tower and make the decisions because you think that's what they want. And that's, quite frankly, that's what I think's been lacking in my district, you know. Today we got a newsletter.
I heard.
Haven't had a newsletter in 6 years. Today got a newsletter. So, you know, you can't do that. You know, our councilman was scheduled to be a host at 2 town hall meetings. He wasn't there for both of them. One about Craig Field and one about the Kernan expansion. He was listed on there. He didn't show up for him. He showed up to collect the $10,000 for the grand jury when they paid his lawyer. He liked that one. So, you know.
Just a quick take, what avenues for transparency?
I think the email should be open to them. I think you should be able to, you know, return calls of people that call you. One of the things I'm toying with is creating a website for that district that says, here's the information that's going on. And I would pay for it. I don't want the city to pay for that website. I'll pay for it. A website out there that we could update with information. People can go out there. You have an email address there. If you want to email me, you can email me. The other thing I'm looking at is either quarterly or every 6 months or every 2 months, I don't know yet, say, you know, I'm going to be at the Willow Branch Library from 6 to 8 o'clock. If you have an issue, come see me. If you have a problem, come see me, and we'll sit down and talk. And it could be a group of people, it could be just one. But I'll be available during that time to whatever you want to talk about. Now, you may not like my answer, but we'll have the dialogue.
Now, I think you've answered this question. What distinguishes you from your opponent and specifically makes you and not him the right choice for the voters in this contest?
I'm 61 years old and married 32 years. I've been whittled down to nothing. No, you know, I believe that when you get elected to an office, you're elected by those people that want you to represent them. And that has a lot of responsibility to it because you're not going to please 100% of the people all the time. It's impossible. But what you want to have is some dialogue so that you give dignity to their comments. You know, if they have something to say, you have to be willing to listen to that and say, let's have some dialogue. At the end of the day, you may end up agreeing to disagree. But you have to give dignity to their comments because they're not there because they're just making it up. They're concerned. And when you don't do that, then you just miss everything that's great in this country. So.
Fair enough.
Final question. Assuming that CTDC, concerned taxpayers, were to officially endorse you, what actions, if any, would you take to inform the electorate of that fact?
I would list it on my website. Everybody I would talk to when they ask me about endorsements, I would list that. I would put it in one of the mailers and say, here's because we were going to do a mailer of the people that endorsed them. We include it there. You know, as much information I can get. You know, endorsements. The different, you know, I've been endorsed by the builders, and I've been endorsed by ABC, I've been endorsed by police, I've been endorsed by fire, and you know, that's a vast difference there, you know, and so you have to be able to let people know, here are the people that think enough of you to say that they want to endorse you, that they think that your ideas have merit, that you're, so anything you can do, regardless of what the organization is, you have to be able to project that out to them. And so I would do that as best I could on everything that I could.
Very good.